The last couple of years has given me a lot of.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, enjoy.
How's everyone doing today? Awesome. So we are going to be talking about listing appointments. I'm going to mainly focus on the appointment itself when we're actually meeting the client most of the time for the first time face to face. But I do want to just kind of touch base a little bit on the conversations we have with these potential sellers or listing clients before we even meet with them, right? Got the listing appointment somehow, whether we reached out, whether it was a referral. We definitely want to make sure we're having a initial conversation. In that initial conversation, a lot of times it's very important to find out their motivation, just as much as it is with the buyer finding their motivation to buy, also finding out the motivation for sellers, right? We have a lot of different things. In the last couple of weeks, the listing appointments I've been on, we had a family member pass away. They had to sell their estate. We had someone whose kids just went to college and now they're looking to downsize. We've also had financial troubles, right? They may be going underwater. We may be actually helping these people not go into foreclosure. So there's a lot of different things, and it also will help you kind of tailor your actual appointment when you actually meet them if you know more about their personal situation and what's going on in their lives. I will also say if they are interviewing other realtors, which again, in the last 2 weeks, I've been on 3 listing appointments. All 3 of them, one of them interviewed 7 realtors, one of them interviewed 5, the other one interviewed 4. Okay, we are getting out of the time where anyone can list your house and you're going to get 20 offers, $20,000 to $40,000 over, with everyone waiving every type of contingency. The consumer is becoming more aware. They are seeing properties sit on the market. I live in Elm Grove. There was never a property on the market for more than 5 or 7 days on the market. The one down the street from me has been on the market for 42 days now. Okay. My neighbors ask me, they go, "Oh, is the market really shifting? Is it?" I'm so sorry. Is it hard to? That's actually from one of my listing appointments, the client. So hopefully we get that one. But it's one of those things where people are noticing there's a change in real estate. People are aware of what's going on with interest rates. They are aware that the buyer pool is starting to shrink a little bit. If people are considering selling their home, they want to make sure that who they are using, they are going to be optimizing their profit or whatever their main goal is. Okay, so that initial conversation, normally I try to get people to let me know, why are we thinking about selling? That's a great question. What has made you, think that now is the right time? It's also a great time during that initial conversation to ask questions. People have sometimes a preconceived notion of how much their house is worth, even without any data whatsoever, right? So having those conversations with the client before we meet with them is going to give you more notes once we actually get to that appointment. Now, going on to a listing appointment, okay, setting the appointment, showing up, doing those things. Be prepared. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Show you some of the things that I do. I'll actually go through some of the things that I do. I also want to make sure that you look like a professional when our team actually things.
I think they have to use whoever's is, they have to use.
Looks like it's a desk maybe.
Sure. It's kind of an odd noise. It sounds like a poltergeist. Hey, we're getting here. Yeah. we go. I think we're good. All right, awesome. So showing up to the listing appointment, always like to come prepared. These are some of the forms that we use and we bring to the listing appointment. If you don't have a form like this, you're an individual agent, you can definitely make something, you know, just again, something to give the clients some, we don't want to give them useless information. We want to give them things that they may have questions about. The other thing is, you're probably not going to answer every single question in that listing appointment, even if you stay there an hour and a half. People get this information, they start reading through it, they get other information that maybe they weren't even aware of, right? So one of the things we have is this. This is actually a customizable, talks a little bit about our team in general, okay, what we do. Also talks about listing the home and what they're going to kind of expect from our services, right? So here it kind of goes over. We do a lot of contractor and professional service coordination. So again, when we're at a listing appointment, people go, what do you mean contractor coordination? It's not all the time you walk up to a house and it's like, okay, it's ready to be put on the market today, right? One of the things that you'll get from a lot of clients is, should we do anything? What should we do in this house before we list? A great way to look at that is, number one, look at their motivation to actually do those things. Is that really what they want to do? Do they really want to repaint the interior of the house? Do they really want to redo the carpet and the flooring on their main level because it's trashed, right? Finding out what their level of how much they want to do. Some people, I'll meet them and they say, honestly, we want to do the bare minimum. We're willing to do some small things, but we don't want to do anything that's going to cost a lot of money. So maybe we're just talking about doing a deep cleaning, steam cleaning the carpets or something before we're going to start showing it. Other people go, I want to optimize what I can get. If you think I do new flooring, if you think I put new hardware on the cabinets in the kitchen, I'm open to that, but you need to let me know what those things are. My rule of thumb is for every cent that they spend, if they're not going to get 2 cents back when we sell their house, it's not worth doing. Now, again, a lot of times that's going to be in your own judgment of what you can think, but if you're looking at comps, every other comp to this house has updated kitchens, new flooring, you know, things like that. They want to get $375 for their house. The comps are really showing them at like the $360 to $365. Maybe doing some of those upgrades is going to bump them into that range that they want to be at, right? But again, explaining those things. So we do some contractor professional service coordination, home staging services.
Emma,
Yes.
do you really feel there's a 2 penny for every penny that you put in? I've never experienced that.
Say that again.
Where doing the improvement is gonna give them double what they paid for. I don't.
So we run a pretty good algorithm when we think about these things, right? So again, and when we get to the how we kind of tier our listings, I'll kind of explain to you, and we'll go a little deeper into that. But yes, there are things you can do that's going to double your money for what they put in. Okay.
Do you want questions now or at breaks?
We can ask questions now. I'm fine with going through them while they're still fresh in your mind.
Do you do 1-stop or 2-stop listing appointments?
We do one-stop listing
All
appointments.
right.
Yep, and I'll kind of go through, hence why I think the system and process that we have, we kind of combine. I know there are some people that do the 2-stop listing appointments. We can have kind of gotten it down like a well-oiled machine to the point where we can do it all at one stop when we're actually on site, okay? So you're asking about 2 cents, for every cent you spend, getting 2 cents back, right?
Mhm.
There are not going to be very few repairs or major repairs. Is that going to be the case, right? It's really going to be the market. Most of the time, I will say probably about 80% of the listings that we have, it's very minor things, right? We're talking about, again, deep cleaning of the house, you know, getting the carpets cleaned. Those are normally the 2 things we almost recommend for almost any home that we're going to sell regardless, right? But there are, I just had one down in Racine, okay, where the kitchen was completely and utterly trashed. They had tenants living there, right? The hardwood floors were in great condition, but completely needed to be, you know, buffed and refinished. So we kind of looked, they gave me, and a lot of times how I present it is, do you have a budget for maybe repairs that you would want to do to the house before listing it? They're going to tell you, right? I don't want to spend more than $1,000. I don't want to spend more than $5,000, whatever that might be. Then you kind of at least understand what budget you might be working at if we are going to do any improvements. But this one down in Racine that I was just telling you about, kitchen was completely trashed, right? The refrigerator had food in it while I was there that was probably 6 months old when I was actually there for the listing appointment. The stove in the oven didn't work. The countertops had like chunks taken out of it. Someone put a hot pan on the, on the countertop, burnt a hole in it and stuff. If we were to list that house,
No, I totally.
Yeah,
agree.
as
It's
is.
in that.
yeah, we're talking about, I probably would have listed it at 119,000, you know what I mean? But if we were able just to maybe, I'm not talking about putting granite countertops, this wasn't one of those houses, right? But putting, new linoleum or a butcher flat countertop on it, maybe just putting some new hardware on the cabinets and getting those appliances out. You don't have to put new appliances in, but let's get the appliances out that don't work, that are from 1960, you know what I mean? Let's get them out. So at least when people walk in, they can at least visualize that. We went in with that low price. If they wanted to do nothing, we probably would have listed around 119. We are going live with this property at 139.9. And I've already had people reach out that have interest in it, and they only spent maybe $2,500. And we're probably able, just for the kitchen, they spent $5,000 overall because we did some other things. But with $5,000, we're probably listing $10,000 to $20,000 over what we would have originally listed at if they just wanted to sell it as is. You know what I
Good
mean?
point, yes.
So there are those things. Now, the majority of your listings, there's not going to be a lot of major repairs probably that are going to warrant that, and especially with what we're seeing with our market conditions, right? You know what I mean? Houses aren't going for as much over as they used to be. The buyer pool has definitely shrunk, right? So you want to be very intentional about the information that you're giving them. You're going to have certain clients that go, oh, are you sure we shouldn't? I literally walked into, and they're like, oh, we're thinking of taking down this wall and opening up the kitchen into the living room. And I was like, that's great, but do you have any idea what that's going to probably cost you? Again, you need to be the expert. Let them kind of know about that, right? We're not talking about a couple $1,000s to take down a wall and redo a kitchen. We're talking probably $10,000 to $20,000 minimum once you start, opening up walls, whether it's structural or not. Now you have to finish off those matching flooring. We're talking about a lot of different things here, right? We're probably not going to recommend something like that to be done, before we list that property, unless, again, it's a one-off situation where something like that's really going to warrant a larger purchase price, right? But it's probably not going to. So moving kind of on to this, we also go over, I talked about home staging. I have not staged a home, I don't think physically staged a home in 2 years. Most of the staging that we focus on is virtual staging, if anything now. A, it's normally cheaper to do, you know what I mean? B, people are looking at those photos, so at least when they walk in, even if the house is empty, now they at least have a visual of what that house could look like and how you can set it up. The nice thing about virtual staging, it does give you the autonomy to do pretty much anything with a room that you want. You want to make a room that's a bedroom into an office. You want to make a living room that's large enough to have a dining room attached and kind of show that, you could have a living space and a dining space there. You can do that virtually staging. Normally, virtually staging, they charge you per room to virtually stage. You're looking at anywhere from about $40 to $50 on top of a normal fee to virtually stage a room, or at least that's what most photographers will charge you to do it. But I will say virtually staging is kind of the way we've been trying to kind of push our clients. Now, if you're starting to get up into kind of the luxury side of things, that is where we are still seeing some physically staging being done. Or there are some listing agents out there who actually run their own staging company alongside. I have seen that. We personally don't have a staging company with our real estate team. And it's a large investment to have all of that furniture and stuff on hold to be used all the time. So we're not doing a lot of physical staging. It's been all virtual staging. Yeah.
You have a few unique selling propositions that are pretty cool, and I was curious, with these unique angles, do you have a varied commission?
Yes, we
Okay.
do have a varied commission. We'll go through the pricing too. So as we go through, we go through all of this. We show them kind of the steps to not only listing their home, but the services that we provide that other realtors might not even be talking to them about at all. Okay. We also talk about, we do print out actual info packets on every single property. It's a 1-page We, leave it in our signage boxes out by the front door, but we also promote that on Facebook, Instagram, once the property goes live too. The one page is really nice because on the MLS, what you will find as you start doing listings, if you haven't done them, or if you have done them, you're limited to how many characters you can put in a property description, right? So again, that's why you're seeing all of the abbreviations. The other thing is when you are abbreviating things on the MLS, you want to make sure to at least keep specific words in there that people search for when they're looking for a home as modifiers to kind of get them to that site, right? So move-in ready, you know what I mean? That's a great one. People are looking for move-in ready homes. They don't want to do a lot of work to it, right? So if they're searching on Google move-in ready, they actually will be brought to that if that's in your description, right? So you don't want to be abbreviating important things about the home, but some of the greatest things to abbreviate, bedroom, of course, we've all seen that, bath count, stuff like that. Kitchen, KIT, you know what I mean? Whatever you want to do, those are the things, but when you're actually using descriptive words, I would definitely recommend not trying to abbreviate those in your listings. Question?
I know this is a little off topic, but is there a little bit of an art as well as a science as to the sales copy you put into the description of your homes? Because I know that after the first thousands I've read, I don't care anymore.
Yep.
And I'm
So that
sure-
first line the first line of your description should really be like a catcher, right? It should at least, because again, he is completely right. We live in the digital, we live in the swiping age, right? So you have maybe a couple seconds when someone looks at a property to make an impression, right? We are legally bound to put a exterior photo of the home as on MLS, right? So we want to always make sure that exterior photo is the best exterior photo that actually shows off the house. It is amazing to me going on the MLS, you go through certain listings and you go, how the heck did they pick this photo? Why did they do this? Photography is very, very key to capturing the audience. I would definitely not try to cut back on, by taking it on your cell phone or, hey, I'm going to cut costs by doing this. I will tell you, having professional photography done for listings is key. I definitely believe that in my heart. But you are right. We have some things that we almost all of our listings start by saying, welcome home. Okay, it's just something that we use on our team a lot. Welcome home. Investment opportunity, build equity, you know what I mean? Things like those in the first line or two can really now, you're also kind of setting it up. If you have great investment opportunity, build equity, people are understanding that the house probably needs some work, right? We probably don't have to go in description about property needs cosmetic updating if you're starting off by talking like that, but welcome home, fully renovated, 3-bed, 2-bath, greenfield ranch on almost an acre of land. That first sentence or two is really going to kind of capture whether they're going to read that whole description or whether they're going to stop there and click and go to the next one. So there definitely is kind of an art to how you do that. Kind of going back to this presentation that we do, we talk about the things that we're going to do to sell their home, right?
What you reads by the things you do versus don't do. I mean, other agents don't do. What are some of those kind of things?
Well, again, as I kind of go through this, we put together a property portfolio. We do that marketing with a one page. We also do mailers. We normally do signage. We also do local canvassing. We also talk about open houses, right? What we're going to do and what's our strategic plan with open houses. Kind of going a little deeper into those. When we're talking about signage and local canvassing, in a perfect world for every listing we had, we would be going around to the 40 to 50 different neighbors around there doing kind of neighborhood preview, letting them know that we're going to have an open house. They're invited to the open house an hour earlier than the open house is going to be open to the public, just for the neighbors to see it, right? Something like that. The other thing is what you're doing there is now you're stacking potential listings in the future, right? You're not really doing that neighborhood canvassing because the neighbor's going to buy the house that's next door to them. It's happened, but the odds of that happening are slim to none. Why you're doing that is because you're now reaching 40 to 50 households around where you're listing. You're going to sell that place. Once you sell that place, when those 40 or 50 neighbors, it might be 1 month, might be a year, it might be 4 years from then, but they remember that, oh, remember they did such a good job. We went to that open house. They're going to call you up and at least probably have an opportunity to now list their home when they're ready to sell. So again, that's something that, I would love to say it's 100% that we do. We try to do it, but it's not always in the cards. If we have 3 or 4 listings going live one weekend, we only have so many people on our team to, really make sure all of these things are done. But the things that we do for everyone, we do the property portfolio, we do the mailers, we always have signage, and we always do an open house. People sometimes say, you do an open house, even if it's a $80,000 property or $800,000 property. Yeah, these people are paying us a commission to try to sell their house. You know what I mean? We're going to do everything to our power to make sure that happens. One thing with open houses, I will say, a lot of people, you always see the normal open houses, Saturday 11 to 1 or Sunday 12 to 2 p.m. We always let our clients know too what our strategic plan is when we are going to list their house. We're going to list at this price. We're going to have an open house on that opening Saturday. It's going to go live on the MLS on Thursday. People can start scheduling showings on Friday. Saturday, we're going to have the open house. If we don't have any offers in hand by Monday or Tuesday of the next week, and we're going into that next week, we're not dropping price at this point. We're not going to run with our tails between our legs and think that we're going to let this thing breathe. But now we're going to do a second open house the second weekend, right? And instead of picking the exact same day at the exact same time, where maybe you had 8 people, maybe you had 18 people, now let's now try to gather a new set of buyers, right? So maybe that's a Friday evening open house. Maybe that is a Sunday afternoon open house. Maybe it's a Thursday evening open house. But there's ways that you can, if you're going to do the open house every Saturday from 12 to 2, you do 2 open houses. I guarantee you that second one, you're going to have less of an attendance than that first one. Because again, you're kind of pigeonholing who's able to attend based on you picking the exact same times and that you're actually doing it. So we do a strategic open house platform. The thing that we really lean on, that we think that we do a really good job on, is our social media and marketing. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia. We actually promote it on all of those sites. We have a marketing manager who's able to do all of this stuff, but on a singular level, it does not. How long does it take you to post something on Facebook about a new listing? How long does it take you to post something on Insta about a new listing? It shouldn't take you longer than about 5 or 10 minutes. Just copy and paste the description, put it into your Facebook, pick your top 3 or 4 pictures of the home and post it. You know what I mean? If that's all you're doing, at least when you go to that listing appointment, you can let them know, we promote this on Facebook, we do this. We actually pay to have all of our new listings boosted, on Facebook and stuff. So we also let our clients know that we are investing our money to boost your home because we want to sell it at the top price for you. You know what I mean? So those are just some of the things that, we go over with them. I think the most important thing that you can do is you are giving them information about their home, right? So we are going to kind of do this as if we are going to a listing appointment. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen here so you guys can see it. Put it in here. Only issue when you're not using your own. Okay, so this is a document we use for every single listing. We call it a listing strategy session form. So anytime you're going to a listing, this is the form you're bringing. It's going to have information, just general information about the address, client's name, any additional owners. As you can see, this goes in the order of how we look at the home. So normally when I arrive to a listing appointment, first thing you see is the exterior of the home, right? A lot of times the client isn't outside with you. So normally I start taking a look at the exterior of the home. The client a lot of times sees you pull up, they'll come out and they'll say, oh, hey, how's it going, Eddie? And I was like, oh, Bob, nice to see you. Is it okay if I take a quick look just around the exterior home before I come in, and then we can come in and, get started in there? Yeah, that sounds great. I always invite them to walk around the house with me if they would like to. You're definitely welcome to walk around with me if you want. 50% of the time they do, 50% of the time they're going to wait until you're done, right? But we're going to start looking at the exterior of the home. What type of property? Is it a ranch? Is it a colonial? Property type, 1 story, a half story. This all might seem like super simple things, but you have to remember, not every home that people want to sell has been on the MLS before. You're not going to be able to find this information out before you go. So it's good to have. And it's also great to have if you get that listing and start making property descriptions and knowing about updates of the home and stuff. I will tell you, we are all busy people. I doubt you only have one client you're servicing. You probably have multiple clients. Staying organized, keeping notes about every single different person is going to make it much easier to reference those notes when you're working on that file or working on that client's listing. You know, we get pretty micro here, not saying that I make a note about every single one of these things. A lot of times it says roof, right? If the roof looks like it's in good condition, it's not peeling, doesn't have any major, you know, curling or anything happening, I'll just type okay or put a check mark, you know what I mean? But you do want to, you know, leave things here. You know, if there is, let's say, deteriorating concrete on the front walkway, it's good to just mention that, you know, concrete issues on front walkway, so at least you know about those things. So I always start in the exterior of the home. I go through the entire exterior of the home. And then if you notice here, it says review seller questionnaire. We do send out in that initial conversation, we do send out a questionnaire to our sellers. I would say maybe only about 1 out of every 4 people actually fill that out, or I have that before I go to a listing. So really what we're trying to get to is one of the questions we ask in our questionnaire, what's the 3 most important things you want to get out of your meeting with us today, right? If I don't have that questionnaire, that's what I normally ask them. I say, what are the 3 most important things I can answer for you today? And again, a lot of times, how much can I sell my house for? What's your commission? Why are you different than the other person that I just met with an hour ago? I'm trying to think, those are normally, it's going to be about the same, right? Every now and then you will get some interesting questions, but again, now you know that what you want to have to answer before you leave that day. Yeah.
Do you ever have to answer those commodity questions before you go out? Like, just tell me what you're gonna list it for and your commission. I don't want you to come out here unless we agree on that.
So commission, yes. I'm never going to give a person what I think that what we should list their house for without being on site, because it really is going to vary based on what type of condition that home's in. I might be able to give them a range. I might say, hey, you know, based on what I'm seeing in your neighborhood for 3-bed, 1.5 bath homes, you know, I've seen, you know, them running anywhere from 250 to 350. So your home's probably going to fall somewhere in there. But honestly, until I take a look at your property, see what amenities it has and doesn't have compared to some of these comps, it's really hard for me to give you, you know, my expert opinion on what we should list it for at this moment. Again, that also kind of gives you a reason to go to the property, meet them on site, take a look. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, if that's the type of client you have that they say they want you to give, yeah, you can do that, but you're not really giving them any sort of elevated service. I mean, at that point, you're pretty much just sticking a number that may or may not stick, and you might be leaving $10,000 to $20,000 on the table, or you may be overpricing that property by $10,000 or $20,000 without even knowing it. You know what I mean? So I never normally give them an exact number. I'll give them a range if they ask that question over the phone, you know, things like that. So again, asking them the top 3 goals out of today. What do they want to get out of the discussion? Again, like you said, most of the time it's what can I get for my house? What needs to be done sometimes is a big question. What's expected of us? You know what I mean? And then, you know, commission is definitely, I've never been to a listing appointment where they do not ask you how much they need to pay you, other realtors, things like that. After that, I have a sit down with them, touch base with them, you know, try to almost get to, you know, be their friend. You know what I mean? That's what you're there to do. You know, you're there to give them, but you're also there to help them however they need to be helped, right? So really taking into consideration what they want to get out of it. I like to answer those questions to the best of my ability at that point. If they do start asking about what's my property worth and stuff, a lot of times what I end up saying is I'm going to go over all of that with you. I definitely do want to take a look around the inside of the house though. You know, would you like to come with me while I take a look around? Oh, of course, you know, though they normally are going to come around and they start giving you information. Oh yeah, we redid this light fixture. You know, I put this water heater in 2 years ago. So now you're getting information. You can document it on this file. So when I go back, I know now, my water heater was done in 2020. You know what I mean? The furnace was, a new furnace was installed in 2018. These are also going to be selling points if I get the listing and what I'm going to use to promote the property. We go through this whole form here. Basement's normally the first place I like to go to once I'm in. And then it kind of goes, we have kitchen here because normally kitchen is a lot of times we find right around the basement. We go through, living room, entryway, family room, dining room. We have all of this on here. Again, bathroom, you have full, half, location, tub, shower, surround. So now you're getting very intentional about what this property has. This is a great form. I know it looks like it has a lot on here. And like I said, very few times am I filling out every single line here, but I am making highlights. Kind of the highlights and the lowlights of the property are what you want to document. If everything's just standard, you're not going to write on here, roof okay, all of this stuff. If you don't have a note here, normally I know that it's in decent condition, nothing stellar. But we go through this whole thing. And this is, again, mainly for me. This is not for the client, but this is what I reference as I go through it. Now, at the very bottom of this is what's great. When you sit down with the client, I still have this form. We talk about timeline of an important dates. So once we start talking about repairs later on in the appointment, and we actually get that listing, we can actually set up the time expectations, go over that with the client too, so they understand what they're expecting. But we go through this. After we go through this, normally that's when I sit down and we actually do the presentation, okay? So I normally kind of just give you a timeline. I try not to spend more than about 5 to 10 minutes walking the exterior of the home, go inside, have that initial conversation with the client. Also takes about 5 or 10 minutes for that initial conversation. After that initial conversation, I do a walkthrough of the home. That does take about 15 to 20 minutes. So we're already at about 30 minutes right there. The rest of the time, the remaining 30 minutes is normally going over the presentation and this folder. Now, again, I bring this folder, there's things in here I do not actually go over with them, but I leave it with them. One of the things, and I know we just have a new one, home warranty program, right? I always like them to know what the home warranty is. If we offer a home warranty, if they sell their house to a buyer, what they're covered with as a seller. We just had that, whole thing today about HSA, what they do now cover, what they don't cover, things like that. But I want my client to know, hey, if we do offer a, $595 home warranty when we sell your house to a buyer for the first year, you are covered during this portion when we're, under contract and listing the home, that if any of these things were to happen, it's one less thing for you to worry about, right? I don't go over all of that with them in here, but I let them know if they have any questions or are interested in the home warranty, that the information's in here. We also do leave them a copy because we have a pretty high retention rate of getting listings from appointments. So we always like them also to know what's called, we use Shutter Zone Media for all of our photography. And they have actually provided what's their pre-photo checklist of what needs to be done before they come in and do photos, right? So again, I leave this with them. I'm not going over this line by line with them. I just let them know before I leave that there is some information about what needs to be done in prep for the property before we would do photos, okay? The two documents that I go over with them quite a bit is the strategy session. And then also, before I leave, one of the things I always try to figure out is what they owe on the home. Okay, before I go to that listing appointment, I want to know what their mortgage balance is. If I can find that out, it helps me produce what this is called. It's called a net profit analysis. And I think I have it on here too. Okay. So if you look here, you have a potential listing price, you have a potential sell price, right? So again, your potential sell price, your potential listing price, the reason we have two difference, we want to show them what's the difference if they're going to be getting 130 or 140. So again, on the front end of these things, I'm looking at comps, I'm putting together a net profit analysis. I think based on what I see, their house is between 130 and 150. I'm going to show them if they sell it at 130 or 140, what their net profit's going to be. We have here all of the fees that are going to be included on the seller side for closing costs, right? Because again, other realtors, it was amazing. The one listing strategy session I had this week, the guy who was just calling me, met with 5 other realtors. I was the 5th one, or 4 of the realtors, I was the 5th one. And when I started to go, I was like, he was like, wait, there's seller closing costs? He goes, no other realtor told me that. They said that all I have to pay is the commission. They said there's no other cost associated with selling my house except for the commission. I said, I wish that was the case. And I said, it has nothing to do with me, but I said, you know, the title company, these things do cost money on the seller side also. So we also bring that in here. So for this property here, and if you're not sure what those closing costs can be, we have great resources here in the market center. Call the title company that you work with. You can even give them the address. They'll give you almost to the dollar what those closing costs are going to be. Okay, everything's pretty set, right? The one thing that does kind of vary the most is the owner's title insurance policy, depending on the purchase price of the home. That does vary quite a bit. So that's the one line. But again, if you reach out to a title company, say, hey, I'm looking at potentially listing a $350,000 home. What would the closing costs look like? They would be able to give you at least a breakdown or get you a pretty close to dollar amount. So for this property, listing it at like 140, their seller costs were going to be $1968 on just the closing fees for seller closing side. Okay. Down here we have the commission. So buyer brokerage compensation 2.4%, listing brokerage compensation 3.6%. We also do have a broker admin compensation that we have with our listings. It's a flat $495, and that is also due at closing. So we have that built in here. So they see here, okay, I'm going to sell 100, you know, if we sell it at $140,000, we subtract all of these fees. These people had nothing on their mortgage balance, right? What is their net profit going to be? So it shows if we sold it at 140, you're looking at $129,137. We ended up selling it at 130. You're looking at $119,137. But again, what's nice about this document is you put in a current mortgage balance. Let's say they owed $110,000 at the house. It's now going to take that off of there and show them their net profit as $19,000 or $9,000, depending on what it is. People want to know what they're going to be walking away with if they sell their house. A lot of times people have in their head, again, that they're going to sell their house. They're not aware of title fees. They're not aware that they're paying the buyer's agent who's bringing the buyer. You can't assume any of that. So you really have to, when you go into the strategy session for a listing, you want to give them as much information as possible without completely overwhelming them also, right? So again, I think compensation and going over numbers is very important, and that's why we use this net profit sheet. Does anyone have questions about the net profit sheet or? Yeah.
You don't go line by line unless they ask, dude.
Nope.
Okay.
So a lot of times what I do is I just kind of pull out that net profit sheet when we start talking about, when we get into talking about pricing of their home. And then I'll say, and then I've also brought this sheet just to kind of show you what your net profit would look like based on the conversation we had. You know, I know a lot of times people don't know the exact dollar amount of what they owe on a loan. You know what I mean? You'll be talking to them on the phone and they'll say, I think it's about $25,000. Well, I'm going to use that $25,000. Let them know. Say, I know the numbers might not be exactly accurate, but based on the information you gave me, just want to kind of show you what you potentially could be walking away from if we sell at these purchase prices. Yeah.
Is there a template on like the KW website that has a sheet like this that you can
No,
reference?
but I'm going to make all of these forms available to everyone. I'm going to make sure that Kelly puts them in a folder. You guys will have access. Kelly saw our listing strategy, the form I had on before here with all the different rooms. She's like, can I steal this? And I go, yeah. And so she used it for her last listing. She's like, it's amazing. She was like,
It's amazing.
because again, how many times, I mean, I used to do it. Go to a listing, you have a little notebook or you have a pad of paper and you're writing chicken scratch and then you're trying to go back and like look at your notes. Like,
What does this mean?
yeah, what does this mean? Again, this was a game changer. I will tell you, once we got that form in, so I'll make that available to you guys. Can definitely use it. Every time you use it, you just have to give homage to the Mindbreak team. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, no, take it. You guys can edit it, do what you want. The nice thing about our net profit analysis, that all has the formulas in there. So it's really just plug and play. So that one, you'll just type in. The other cool thing is if you guys like, again, these compensation breakdowns might be different than what you offer your listing services at. So you can just change that right now. If you were to put the number into the listing, it would calculate it at 3.6. But if you're at 3.2 or 3.3 or 3.1 or 3.0 or whatever, you could change that formula. It's just like a Google sheet. So it's pretty easy to do. Yeah. We go back.
I would assume that, your conversation about commission happens before this sheet comes out.
Yes, so, listings are very interesting because as you also know, when you're at a listing appointment, depending on what they want to talk about, sometimes you jump all over the place, right? If it's a perfect world, show up, do the exterior, have my initial conversation, kind of have that 5 to 10 minute, like, you know, romance with the person and kind of get them to know you a little bit, get to know exactly what they're looking out of it. Then I do the interior and then I do the sit down and I go through this. Right? This is kind of my manual for a listing. So again, we have talked multiple times. We have flipped around the order of this so many times because again, it's like, should we go over pricing first? Should we go over this? What should we go over, right? But I do go over this. What I know, again, I like the order it's in now, kind of shows what our services are that we do for them. Then it goes over what our exact numbers are. So we track how many days on market our listings are, what our average sold to list price is. Okay, I know what those numbers are every time I go to a listing. It changes, of course, depending on your last listing, right? But currently, as of the last time I did a listing appointment, which was 3 days ago, we were averaging 7 days on market from the time we listed till we closed. This is for the whole year so far. And-
It's under contract.
What?
So it's under contract.
Until it's under contract.
Okay.
So 7 days on the market until we get an accepted offer. And our average list to sell price is 107%. Okay? Reason I love showing them that sheet is because the next, oh man, I have it on here. The next sheet is really quite awesome, and I'll show you why. Let's see if I can pull it up. Sorry, guys.
No, your next sheet is the commission one. And then you can justify that you make more than the next person.
Yeah, but
That's the
what I
commission.
really wanted to show you guys was. See here, oh, she uploaded it. Shoot. So one of the things we do is we go onto the MLS and figure out in that neighborhood or within a half mile, a mile, whatever, however you do your CMA. When I'm doing a CMA, I figure out what the average days on market for the homes that have sold recently are. And I also look at the average sold to list price, okay? I will show you really quick how to do that if you're unaware how to do that now, okay? So if we go into the MLS here. Okay, CMAs, let's just look at one here. Which one do I want to pick? Doesn't really matter. This is a condo. Oh. So let's just. No, mouse doesn't work. So I'm just gonna draw. Circle here. Doesn't matter. Okay. So when you have your properties that you're comparing it to, okay? If you hit this selected button here. So once you've selected, let's say I'm just selecting a couple properties here, doesn't really matter. Once you've at least selected 2 properties, this is when you're doing a CMA. So you might have 10 properties you're looking at, you're gonna select the best 5. Again, when you're doing a listing presentation, it's much different than doing a CMA for a buyer than it is for, you are trying to warrant as high of a purchase price as possible. A buyer, you're really trying to get them exact fair market value. So what I do with the listing is normally I have more comps with a listing because I want to show them the range of everything, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. When I'm doing a buyer CMA, I am trying to go as close to apples that I possibly can, okay? But I want to show them the range because again, they're going to be thinking their house might be worth 400,000 when I might be the bearer of bad news telling them honestly fair market value is 370. You know what I mean? And I want them to see the range of homes. But once you've selected at least the properties, if you go over, oh my gosh, I hate that this isn't like a computer. No. Sorry guys, this is not normally how mine looks. Why can't I find it?
Do they ever fight with you with comps? Where they're just like, my house is better than this?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get people, sometimes people think that their house is worth a lot, and there's sentimental value a lot of times with that too, right? They've been in there a long time, they've had their kids raised in there, they just feel like it's worth more than maybe what. Now, that's been less the case over the last couple of years, just what's happened with home prices, more people seem surprised by how much they can get for their house. But we are gonna hit that market again where it's not gonna be the case anymore, right? So once I figure out how to use this computer a little bit more. Okay, so once you pick your things, you hit compare, okay? It's gonna compare the selected properties here. And if you go to statistics, it's gonna show you, again, this is a really weird view because this isn't my computer, but it actually will show you on here, current days on market. It's gonna show you average days on market. It's also gonna show you if when you have sold, it's gonna say sold to list price. It's actually gonna show you the percentage and then it'll give you the average, okay? So what I do, I literally screenshot, crop and paste. I put that on my listing strategy session so I can show them out of these comps that I'm showing you, these 5 homes that have all been within a quarter mile of you, all with the same bedroom and bath count, ranch in Greenfield, this is what we're seeing. We're averaging 107% list to sold price, 7 days on the market. Currently, this is what the numbers are showing you in this market. 20 days average days on market, 98%, 101, whatever it might be. I will guarantee you, if you're showing them those numbers and showing what you can do, if it's higher than that, it's just showing that they would be dumb not to list with you, right? If they don't want to optimize it. So we utilize a lot of the statistics on the MLS to help us with our listing presentation when we go through it. The other thing I do, what is anyone gonna do when they're thinking about selling their house? What do you think something almost every client that wants to sell their house is going to do, even if they, before, after, sometime during the,
Rummage or estate sale.
what was that?
Rummage or estate sale.
Rummage or estate sale, that's one of them. What's something else you think they're gonna do? That's actually a great one.
Go online and research their home.
Go online and see what other sites are telling them their house is worth. So I automatically take Zillow. I automatically take, I like to do at least 2. I've been using RPR a little bit lately.
I was gonna say, that's what I use. I do a mailing campaign and I do each flyer tailor with the individual value number. And I do my own CMA on MLS and I confirm with RPR.
Yeah. Again, you're gonna have properties and that's great. And that's pretty much what we're doing. So what I want them to say is, Zillow says your house is worth 350. RPR says your house is worth 390. I mean, I have literally had it sometimes where Zillow says something's worth 350 and you're on like Trulia or one of the other sites and it says 430. I mean, they can be 80 to 100,000. But I also want my potential seller to know that, I know they're looking at this, so I want them to be aware of why, I'm showing them this is what people are going to see when they're looking for your house, right? Yeah, it might say 350 here, it might say 430 there. That's a big price difference. The reason you're bringing me in is because I'm going to break down exactly what your house is worth, right? So using price per square foot, is a big thing, just like how you would do a normal CMA. And again, on this MLS data sheet, it actually will give you price per square foot. Now, I will tell you this, on the MLS, if you're going to take those numbers that are on that comparable search statistics for price per square foot, you need to verify the tax records to make sure the price per square foot is above grade, because the one issue with MLS is that's not always the case. They take total square footage. It's not giving you an accurate representation of price per square foot above grade. So just double check that on the tax records. But again, I normally will bring on here, let's say that the lowest price per square foot was $172. The highest home that sold nearby was $209. Well, if you take 170 and multiply it by the square footage, I might get 350. If I times it by 209, I might get 430, right? So that price range is within maybe what the sites are saying. But now that we've seen the property, go over it to them, I go over with them, hey, this is the range based on the price per square foot. Low end 350, high end 389. I feel like based on our current market conditions, what we're seeing in your neighborhood selling, I have a 3-tiered normal. I say there's three numbers. I normally give them 3 numbers. I say the lowest I would put your property on the market that I would even feel comfortable. And I think this is going low, but it could generate a ton of offers if you're looking to just get rid of the property quick, you know what I mean? And this is how you want to do it. We're going to list at 339 now. Okay. If we want to hit the top end, if you don't mind that this property may sit on the market, we might even have to do some strategic price adjustments. If we're not getting any offers or we're getting feedback we're listed too high, we can list it at 379.9, right? Now, my recommendation would probably be to be kind of right in that sweet spot, what I call the sweet spot. And I would probably list this property at 354.9. I think at that purchase price, you're right in where fair market value. We do have the potential of getting offers over that, but I also don't see there being much potential of this house sitting on the market for long periods of time and needing to do price adjustments, right? Now, again, depending on the client, right? If most people are going to take your advice and go with that kind of sweet spot, I have had clients that say, honestly, I don't need to sell this house right now. If I'm able to get 400 for it, I will. Let's list it at that 389.9, see if we get anything over what you're asking. I want to go at that high end price. I don't care if this thing stays on the market. I'll list it at 389.9. It's still within fair market value. I just think based on our current market conditions, we're probably not going to see that many offers, if any, right? You also have people that they have to be out of the house. They have to sell it within 45 days because they have to pay the bank off or something, right? Well, we may want to be a little bit more aggressive with our purchase price. And again, having that communication with your client while you're doing that is ultimately the best thing. Communication, you want there to be as little surprises as possible. Yeah.
I've heard multiple responses to this question, and will you take a known overpriced listing where they're saying, fair market is 350 on the high end, you're thinking 365, and that's like tops. And like, I need 380 or I'm not listing it. Do you have stipulations to whether or not you'll even take that listing? Like, I'll do it here, and this is what to expect, but we have to bake into the contract price reductions.
That's what I would recommend. I would recommend having that conversation saying, I have no problem listing the property at where you want to list it based on all of the information that I can find. I don't see there really being much statistical, analysis that shows that you're going to be able to get that. But if you want to start listing at 380,000 because that's what you feel like you need, I have no problem. But I would like to build in, if we don't have any offers, but all of the feedback that we're receiving is that it's well overpriced, that it's not worth the money. We do have to build something into here that after 2 weeks or after 3 weeks, we do a strategic price modification, right? We either expire the listing and then re-up it, which is the way I would do it. I never do more than one price reduction on a listing. Okay, if you're gonna do more than one price reduction, that second price reduction, you should expire it and then relist it as a new listing. It's more just to help you with the algorithms, not let people think it's been sitting on the market forever. People sometimes are like, well, isn't that being like dishonest? No, it's not being dishonest. It's within the rules of the MLS. We're not doing anything illegal. We're expiring that listing. We're relisting it at a different price. But then it doesn't show all of these price drops. Have you guys ever had a client on the buyer side that goes, oh, this property's had like 2 or 3 price drops, like, I don't want to go look at it, there might be something wrong with that. That's what people think, right? So as their agent, it's good for us to let them know on the selling side that we have strategic ways. You know, we'll do one price reduction after 2 weeks. If we wait another week or two and we still don't have any offers, we're looking to expire the listing. We are going to relaunch it, do all of the same things we did the first time we launched the listing the first time. We're really going to try to promote that, double down on all of the marketing, double down on open houses, and we'll go about it that way. I don't foresee it going to that, but I want to let you know what our strategic plan would be if that were to happen. And again, this market, it is good to kind of think about what's happening because interest rates are rising, buyers are kind of falling down. We still have low inventory, but there are properties sitting on the market much longer than they were 3 months ago. It's just a proven fact.
Do you guys have a risk tolerance for upfronting the cost of marketing such as mailers or the photography? Like if they're just like, I have to get this price, I don't really want to do price reductions in the future. In my brain, I'd be like, ooh, okay.
Isn't that just a gamble?
I just am hesitant to put my money forward,
Yep.
knowing that the formula that we're putting together, I can't help you reach that goal.
Yep, and so this is what I would say. Couple different ways to think about it this way, right? When you're first starting off with listings, I know that like when Tony and Therese first started the team, they were a little bit more conservative about what they were putting down, you know what I mean? Now we're at least at a point that like if we're eating a $450 photography session, we don't get the listing, it's probably not going to break the bank anymore, right? But I mean, I've been there where $400 is a ton of money. I'm not looking to just throw away no one's looking to throw away $400. My recommendation would be to do this. If you really have a bad feeling, you really don't feel like it's the right listing for you, you know what I mean? Based on some of the information you have, refer it out to another agent, get a referral fee for the listing. Take your 25% if the thing sells, take the 30%, whatever that is, you know what I mean? Again, your job is really to find, and again, I think a consumer that's looking to sell their house, you know, if you went up to them and said, hey, you know, unfortunately, I just feel like everything that's going on with this house, I would love to list your house, but I actually think that I know someone that might even be better to help you achieve your goals with this because it's a very dynamic situation. Bring them in. Do that warm lead, you could always do a referral fee, right? I don't want anyone losing a listing, but I'm just saying, if you're uncomfortable about potentially, you have like a 75% chance in your head, you're pretty sure that like, hey, I'm gonna pay for the photography. There's no way in hell we're gonna get the money that we're asking for this place. They're not open to price drops. I don't wanna lose the potential money on this, but I also don't wanna put up you kind of have to just weigh those options and find the best way out. I mean, there's always a solution to any problem that arises. You could build in a contingency in your listing agreement that states that you know the marketing for the photography is paid by them regardless of the closing. I would not recommend that in this market because you're probably not getting the listing. No one else is doing that. But again, there's no rules or regulations to what you can and can't do as far as you know how you price it or how you pay for things or how you make the client pay for things. But again, that's not a recommendation. I wouldn't put that, but I'm saying there's nothing that's stopping you from doing that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So when you're pulling a house off the market that's been sitting on there too long.
Yeah.
How long are you waiting until you put it back out there? Typically?
We normally wait, I believe it's 48 hours. Yeah, so we pull it off, give it a full day, and then we'll relaunch normally 24 to 48 hours after that. Yeah. The only case scenario where we do it kind of quicker is if we are still seeing a ton of action with like showings and stuff, but that doesn't happen too often because normally if we're doing a price reduction, it's because there hasn't been much activity and all of the feedback is telling us that it's overpriced. It's also great to give that feedback to your clients. Some clients want to be set up on, they want to be everything on showing time they want to be a part of, That's great. Other clients say, honestly, I don't want to be sent every showing request. It's a go-in show. I don't live there. Let people go see it as they want. They don't want to get the feedback automatically. You can kind of filter that, but make sure they are getting the feedback. I would recommend 95% of our clients get the feedback directly from showing time. So when someone fills out the showing, feedback, it's going to automatically syndicate it not only to myself, but also to the client. I went there to see what people are saying about their house. Honest feedback. Same thing with an open house. We don't let anyone come into an open house without filling out a feedback form. And then those feedback forms are uploaded into our Google Drive, and then we send it in an email to our client so they can see how many people came to the open house, what they rated it. Again, there's like 4 simple questions. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the house overall? They circle it. Are you interested? Not at all, somewhat, very interested. They circle one of those. What do you think about the price? Great value, price just right, overpriced. You know what I mean? They circle one of those. So again, you're at least just getting some general feedback. If you do an open house, you've had 10 to 15 showings in a week. Every single one of them is telling you it's overpriced. It's probably slightly overpriced. You know what I mean? And again, sometimes it takes the writing on the wall for clients to see that. But we're not in the business of, playing a shell game, trying to hide things from our clients. We want them to be as transparent as possible. So. Now, after we go over all of that, again, most of the time we talk about commission, right? We talk about what they're going to pay us. Most listing agents that I know of right now, it's somewhere between 4.8 if you're a discounted brokerage kind of deal, all the way up to about 6 to 7%. Okay. Very few 7% listings I've seen over the last, 3 to 6 months, unless you're getting way up into some luxury stuff and they're having some additional things. We normally have a tiered structure where we have a 6%, a 6.5%, and a 7%. I would say 92% of our listings are at that 6% range. The 6.5% is going to be if we're going to be also doing physical staging, doing some of the other things we don't, do, and it's going to cost us more money. Our 7% is if we are going to be running the whole show, doing all contractor coordination. We're talking about kind of a major overhaul. We have a 7% listing right now going on because it was a flip for one of my clients on the buy side. Now I'm going to be listing it, but it was a flip. I was doing the contractor coordination. So instead of building in like a project manager fee, I told him, I said, I'm confident enough, we're going to get a great price for this. I'd rather take it on the additional percentage of the listing if you're okay with that. And so we agreed to that. That 6%, again, if you just go to the and say, hey, it's 6%, they think that 6% is going to you. You do have to explain to them where that's going. Normally, I always start with, I'm not sure if you know about this, but in the state of Wisconsin, when you sell a home, you're not just paying me to help you sell it, but you're also paying the buyer's agent who finds the buyer for your home. It's amazing how many people who have even sold homes recently don't realize or don't remember that fact. You know what I mean? So it's good to let them know, oh my gosh, no, I didn't realize that. What do I pay a buyer's agent? Well, just so you know, 2.4% is going to go to the buyer's agent. And then, the remaining 3.6% would go to me. It made your total all in commission 6%. Okay. Normally people ask, some of the questions and rebuttals. What do you think some of the questions and rebuttals are when you talk about commission?
So-and-so will do it cheaper.
So-and-so will do it cheaper. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, why 6%? I heard someone can do it 4.8. What do you think are some good things that you can talk to them about when you get a rebuttal like that? What are some?
My mildly jerkish
Negotiation.
response is do what? Like when they say they'll do it for 4%, what do they do? Will they put a sign in the yard and negotiate for you?
Yeah.
Well, if that's all you're looking for, you can do that for $5.95 with forsalebyowner.com and pay the Cobro 2.4%.
Yeah.
You're paying for a service that gives you an outcome.
Yep.
And that outcome is dictated by the list to sale ratio as well as days on market.
Yep. So again, the information I have in my packet is to rebut anything that they're going to say. So they're going to say, well, why am I going to pay you 6% when I just met with Lake Country flat fee and they said they can do it for 4.8. I said, well, if you take a look at in your marketplace, you know, the average home is getting about 99% list to sold ratio, so they're getting a little bit less than what they're listing it for. My group averages 107%. So you're gonna be making 8% more on your sale. If that doesn't warrant a 1.2% increase in the commission, you're gonna be putting more money in your pocket by doing it that way, that, you know, than taking a 4.8 discounted brokerage. Other thing about discounted brokerages, a lot of times, they're not doing the legwork, right? Exactly. Do what, right? Are they gonna market your property? Have they told you about, you know, are they gonna be running open houses? Have they talked to you about that? Most of the time, they'll say they can do it 4.8%. We're confident we can sell the home in 2 weeks, you know what I mean? But they're not really going over those steps, right? So that's why it's important to have a strategic plan of what you're gonna do. And don't overpromise and underdeliver. That's definitely not what you wanna do. If you tell a client you're gonna be holding an open house that first Saturday that you do a listing, if you don't hold an open house, you forgot you had a wedding or you forgot something else is going on, you better find someone else to hold that open house for you. You know what I mean? Because they're going to, I mean, technically at that point, if you start promising things, you're technically not living up to your end of the bargain, you know, of what you told them you're gonna do, right? That's the last thing you wanna do. And then as things start going on, you're gonna start incurring more problems because now they have it in that mind. They told us we were doing an open house. It wasn't done on Saturday. We should have been under contract already. This is the reason why our house hasn't sold. You know what I mean? We're not giving them reasons. We want to give them reasons to come to you for questions. When the house hasn't got under contract for 2 weeks, I want my clients to know, like, you know, when I call them up and have that conversation with them, hey, we talked about this, we're gonna do a strategic price drop. Most of the time when I'm calling my clients now for that conversation, they've already called me. They said, hey, should we do a price drop now? I know we talked about this. And I said, no, we're only at 10 days. Let's breathe a full 2 weeks before we're gonna do anything. But all the feedback's telling us it's overpriced. I agree with you. The feedback is telling us it's overpriced. We could do a price drop right now, but I would really recommend just letting it breathe another 4 days, see what happens over this second weekend before we decide to do that. And it's amazing. Sometimes you'll get an offer that comes in at list price at that point. You know what I mean? So again, the more knowledge, the more information you can give them, and then hold up your end of the bargain is great. Other thing I hear with commission is, what are the differences? Why couldn't I sell this for sell by owner? You know what I mean? I was thinking of, you know, doing it for sell by owner. One of my big go-tos is, when they talk about that is, you know, you are completely, that's within complete your rights if you decide to, you know, do it for sell by owner. A lot of people who end up doing it for sell by owner actually end up hiring a lawyer to help them, you know, with all of the compliance documents. There's a seller condition report, a lead-based paint disclosure. These things have to be, you know, put out there if you're going to be putting your house up on the market. A lawyer is going to charge you more per hour than what it's going to cost you to hire me to do the same. You know what I mean? And I'm also versed in trying to get you top dollar for your house, where I don't know what you do for a living, Joe, but you know, well, I work at Chick-fil-A. Well, I don't know if that's gonna really, do you have interest in really selling your home and going through all of that, right? So again, just knowing some of those, you know, kind of comebacks to some of the things, you know, you'll hear, you know. Same thing with, you know, out of state. Same thing with that lawyer question. Do I need a lawyer if I'm using you? I've had that by people selling their homes. They're like, oh, so are you licensed in law? Or, you know, do I need a lawyer? They moved here from Chicago. Every real estate transaction in Illinois, you have to have a lawyer. Okay, so they move here from, you know, Chicago, they're buying their first home or selling their first home here, don't realize that that's how it goes. I've gotten asked that question. You know, actually, the great thing here is in the state of Wisconsin, no, you actually technically do not need to hire a lawyer for this real estate transaction. This is what I eat, drink, sleep, breathe every single day. This is what I do full time. I am versed in this. If we ever need to bring in a lawyer for any issues that arise, I have someone on speed dial that we can use for that. But that's actually one of the perks, and it normally puts a little bit more money in your pocket by not needing to retain and pay a lawyer. Just being honest with them. Not telling them they don't need a lawyer, not telling them that they shouldn't get a lawyer, just telling them that they don't need to. It's actually a perk of, you know, buying real estate in Wisconsin. I think it's one of 14 states where you don't technically need to have a lawyer present, you know?
And isn't it important not to tell them that they don't need, I know that's double negative, but we're not supposed to tell them that they don't need a lawyer.
No, that's what I'm saying. I always tell them, I said, if a lawyer ever needs to be brought in, if we ever need that assistance or you ever feel like it's needed, I have someone on speed dial, and I do. I have attorney Joe Sharenka, who works with Attorney's Title, but he's also a real estate lawyer. And the great thing about it, I have a relationship that I can actually have a client reach out to him. He won't even bill him for like just general questions. You know what I mean? He'll give them the information. Now, if we have to go through an eviction process or we're actually going to court or something, yeah, but he'll tell them up front, hey, I'm going to charge you $700 to do the eviction process for you. I'm going to have this. So it's good to have those referrals. But again, you know, yeah, we can never say you don't need to get a lawyer. What I normally say is it's not required in the state of Wisconsin to have a
I
lawyer.
like your verbiage.
Yep. It is not. It's not required. I'm just telling them the facts. It's also probably saving you about $800 probably by not doing that. Because again, that's about the average cost of just to review documents. I mean, think about how many documents we draft in a real estate transaction. Lawyers get paid by the hour, right? So you think that to review that offer to purchase, the 11-page offer to purchase, they're going to be able to get through that in 15 minutes? No, they're taking a couple hours for sure to review that. Oh, and then you have an addendum A. Oh, and then you have a rental provision. Oh, post occupancy. Oh, this looks pretty interesting here. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not saying lawyers are bad people. They're great, but they do a job and they're doing their job. But they also are going to charge for that job, right? So the majority of transactions that happen, I don't know, you know, I think in the last 2 years, I've personally done, I don't know, 70 some transactions, and I've needed a lawyer for 2 of them. One of them was just a general question from a lawyer. One of them was actually an issue where a lawyer needed to be brought in. There was discrepancies between the seller and the buyer after the close of the home. Again, that's above my pay grade, right? So I'll put you in contact with what you need. I'll do what I need to do. But it doesn't happen too often. And if you're doing things the right way, communicating with your co-bro, whether you're on the listing or the buying side, definitely will help out a lot with that too. I find out, you know, that open communication. So yeah, so those are some of the things. What are some other questions? Anything I can answer about listing presentations?
When you're on the phone
Yeah.
for listings.
Yeah.
Do you try to go that day or do you?
You're saying like, so if I'm on the phone, I get a lead for a listing. Am I trying to get out the same day to do the appointment? It's a good question. I am trying to get out there as quickly as possible. A lot of times my rule is 24 to 48 hours is kind of the maximum. I try to get out there within 1 to 2 days. It really is kind of listening to that client though and finding out what works for them too, right? Now, if I get someone on the phone and they're like, yes, I'm ready, I want to get someone out here right away. I don't want to be the one that's like, oh, I can get out there next week. You know what I mean? I want them to know I'm a priority. Hey, I definitely have some availability later this afternoon if you would want to do it then. Otherwise, I also have time tomorrow between 2 and 4, you know, if that works for you. But I definitely want to get out there and meet with you as quickly as possible. Sometimes people also say I've already talked to a couple of realtors about listing my house. If I hear that, I want to get out there I want to get out there the same day if I can. You know what I mean? I'm on my way. Yeah. You know, because again, I don't want to lose that opportunity. And I also don't want, to be honest, the way I kind of look at it, I don't want them to lose the opportunity because I feel like if they list with someone else, they're probably going to be leaving money on the table and not optimizing what they can get for that house, you know? So that's also kind of how I have it in my mindset. I'm not just getting out there because I want the business. I'm getting out there too because I want to help them, you know, with what they ultimately want to do. And I use that language a lot when I'm talking to clients. You know, what's your ultimate goal? You know, because again, you find out some people are very close to why they're selling, right? Like you reach this, like, I just think it's the right time to sell. Second conversation I had with them, I know you said it's the right time to sell, but like, you know, are you moving out of state? Are you going to be staying in the area? You know, I think I might be moving out of state. And then you find out that they're looking to buy in another state. They don't have a realtor out of state. The more and more you talk to them and dive deeper, right? And then now you're not only a resource for them helping to sell their house, you're also a resource in putting them in contact with someone in that area. I just interviewed 4 realtors in Florida, KW realtors, for a client that's moving down there. And again, I'm not just going to hand them off to any KW realtor. I want to find out. So I call a KW realtor. You know, I'm asking them, What's your average days on market? What's your average sold to list price? You know what I mean? How many units have you listed, or how many buyers have you helped, buy properties this year individually? These are questions I want to know. Then when I talk to my client, just so you know, I got you one of the top producing buyers agents down in Sarasota, you know what I mean? They've actually helped 72 people already purchase homes this year. And they have some room to bring on someone else. I'd love to put you in contact with them. Oh, that sounds great. Perfect. So now I have a listing. They buy a house with them. I have a referral fee from that. I'm kind of building that network. And again, that's why having that network to build is important. I know Kim was talking about wealth building, but just building networks in general, not bringing just people into the KW world, but knowing KW people all over the world. It's amazing to me now that I have real estate conversations so often, how you talk to someone, they're like, oh, my mom's thinking of buying in Oregon, right? I don't know one single realtor KW agent in Oregon, right? But if I were to reach out to the marketplace there, interview 3 or 5 realtors, guarantee I could find a really good one to help them no matter what their real estate goals are, right? And then I'm also establishing that relationship with other agents. Listings are much different than working for buyers. I will also say this, the expectation of sellers is a lot of times much higher than the expectations of buyers, okay? And what I mean is this. Buyers are normally so appreciative of the day they get to close. They are buying their new home, whether it's their first home, whether they're relocating or whatever. It's this new beginning. They feel great. That's not the case with everyone selling their home. Not everyone is selling their home because they want to sell. Not everyone is selling their home because it just happens to be the right time. The other thing is that we talked about this, sellers, there are a good amount of them that feel like their home is worth more than maybe what it is, right? So laying down those expectations, not only about price, but what they can expect from you, what they can expect in that whole process is going to lessen any sort of animosity or any sort of negative feelings between you and that client as that transaction goes on, right? It's everybody's going to be different, but I will say the more I've been working with sellers, they just have a higher expectation of things, right? They also are technically paying for it all. That's something else you don't have to really think of. A buyer is pretty much getting your services for free. They're not paying a cent for you to do what you do for them. The seller's paying you, you know what I mean? So if the seller's not only paying you to help them list their home, but also paying the person who finally buy their home, they're expecting a lot from you. And so one of the other things I'll say, communication, even when you're under contract. My minimum touch, even if we have an accepted offer with a client, if I don't have anything, there's no home inspection, it's a cash deal, right? We're closing in 25 days, right? So I have 3.5 weeks where there's really nothing on my end that I need to do just to make sure that like title documents are getting there. So do I call them every Monday and go, hey, I don't have anything for you, just check in? No, but I call them Monday, hey, how you feeling? Like, how are things going? Are you getting everything moved? Whatever it might be. Yeah, everything's going great. And then normally what I'll do, Friday, I'll send a text message. Hey, just wanted to touch base before the weekend. If you have any questions or any concerns, don't hesitate to reach out, let me know. I want to remain in contact with them. Even if you feel like there's nothing going on in the transaction, doesn't mean that's how they feel. They might be waiting there. I haven't talked to my realtor for a week. I don't even know if the deal is still going on. Like, they don't understand all the nuances with, the timelines with everything. So communicating that when you get under contract with the listing agent, I think it's very important to send an email that has all of the contingency deadlines so they're aware of what they are. You know what I mean? Again, I work with a team that we have a transaction manager. She sends out Google Calendar invites with every contingency date to the agent who's in charge of the client and to the client, right? Not everyone has that. Before I ever had a transaction manager, I still sent an email though and said home inspection contingency deadline is this day. Appraisal contingency deadline is this day. And then at least they have something to refer back to, you know what I mean? You talk to them, say, well, the appraisal contingency is coming up. I heard the appraisal is scheduled to happen, this week. I'm going to be on site for that and let you know how that goes. Once we, get the information back from the buyers, I'll definitely touch base with you. Again, you want to be intentional about and if you have nothing to talk about, still reach out and talk with them. Because just because you don't, like I said, does not mean that they might not have questions or concerns. And again, a lot of weird things happen towards the very end of a deal when you're under contract. I mean, I had a closing for my business partner. They're out of the country. Tony and Sharice are in Italy. They got back today, but we had a closing on Monday, and Sunday at 6 a.m. I get a call. The listing agent took the lockbox and couldn't remember the number, didn't write down the number, and he was freaking out that he couldn't open the lockbox. 6 a.m. on a Sunday, I go, isn't closing tomorrow? Couldn't you have called me? Like, oh, I guess I could. I just was freaking out. Okay, that's fine. You know what I mean? 8 a.m. Same listing agent calls me. My buyers just found out their pod can't be delivered because they forgot to pull, the pod company forgot to pull permits. Can they move their stuff into the house today? 24 hours before the closing, you know what I mean? You're gonna get all of this communication. You wanna make sure you're communicating that with your seller, making sure everything. So yes, we did draft a document stating that they could keep their stuff into the house, you know, but my sellers were not liable for any damage or personal property over that 24 hours before they took possession. But again, there's always gonna be little things, little updates that you can give your seller about what's going on, so. Anything else? There's a lot to listing. I mean, I probably could have talked for like another hour, to be honest with you. But I feel like this was a pretty good, like, just nice foundation for you guys to move forward. If you guys have any questions regarding how to look up, because to be honest, this isn't my computer, I have a Mac, so it's like literally a completely different world for me. But if you guys want any information about how to look at those statistics on the MLS, the exact, you know, ones I use, definitely reach out to me. This is my information. I'll also write my cell phone number. But I am always here to answer questions if you guys need anything whatsoever. I guess in closing, I will just say this. Look at a listing appointment just like you would anything else in your business. We always set goals, right? We always plan. I would always pre-plan with as much information as possible before you go on to that listing appointment. I don't think you can overplan, but I don't think there's too many of us that have the issue that we're going to spend 6 hours on a listing appointment before we go there. Definitely spend some time though, be an expert in that community. One of the other things I normally try to show up 10 to 15 minutes early for my appointment, and I will drive around the neighborhood. I also want to see if there's any additional, just because you're looking at it on the MLS, just because you look at a Google map from the satellite view, sometimes does not give you an exact representation of where you're at or what's around. I mean, you might be walking around, there might be a Starbucks like 2 blocks from there. There might be a park, you know, there might be a public pool. There might be all the stuff that you're not aware of if you're not familiar with that area. Now, when you go to that listing appointment, talking to Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're like, this area is amazing. I didn't realize you guys have a public pool right there. This is a beautiful park that's like within walking distance. Now you're also showing them like, wow, they know this area. They know what they're talking about. Again, one of the biggest things I hear when I go to a listing appointment is we're looking for someone that specializes in this area alone, because there are different listing agents that literally only specifically work in one predominant area, right? Our team works anywhere. We go as far down as Racine, as far north as Mequon, as far west as Oconomowoc, right? We've had listings in all of those. So we don't focus in one area. So I had a listing on the North Shore a couple weeks ago, and that was what I got told. He goes, I think we're gonna go with someone, they've been in this area for 24 years. They only pretty much sell homes in this neighborhood. And I was like, that's absolutely amazing. I said, please just do me a favor. Please ask them to show you what their track record is on the homes that they have sold in that neighborhood. Because I just want to make sure that you're getting the best person. Again, I'm not going to try to convince them that I'm better. I want them to ask the person they're going with. And if they're able to give them all that info and the guy feels comfortable moving forward, that's great. Otherwise, I know I'll probably get the call back. So those are just some of the little things I think you can do. Prepare, be ready for the questions, the tough questions, and how you're going to respond to those. And again, that's mainly going to be about money and commission. That's normally the toughest questions you get when you're talking about a listing appointment. Let them know why you're worth what you are charging. You know what I mean? Focus on some of those key metrics, and it's definitely going to help you out whatsoever. It might just be your dedication, right? You might say, I'm the most dedicated person ever. I'm up at 6 a.m. every morning. I'm working on listings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. every single morning, 6 out of 7 days a week. I doubt you're going to get another agent that does that for you. I don't care what it is, whatever you think is the reason why makes you a great listing agent, use those as like, You don't have to use mine, use yours. You know, everyone's an individual agent here. You guys have your strengths, you know, use them.
I share my own pitch too. I'm
Yeah.
a TC with Focus Title,
Yeah.
transaction coordinator. So I agree, the communication is like crucial and keeping tracks of dates and deadlines. Especially if you're a new agent, it might be confusing the process, like getting from an accepted offer to closing, how to communicate, who to communicate with, and also setting up those reminders like home inspection or checking on the loan or appraisal. We're really helpful with new agents and more experienced agents who don't want to waste time on the details, or new agents who don't know the details yet. We'll help like walk you through the deal. Also for listings, we help set up, enter a new listing to MLS, which also can be very confusing and can get fined for details in that. We work with the title company, Focus Title, so we have really good communication with title, and we're in-house. 2 services, so helping with new listings or also contract to close with buyers.
That's great. And that's a great, yeah, utilize.
Focus Title.
So you are virtual.
Yeah, we are. And also, especially being a new agent or just like competing for a new listing. I'm one person, there's a whole team of us. I'm just one TC. So you can even say like, I may be a new agent, but I have the people, I have resources to
Yeah.
connect you with. There's a lot of people behind me. And also, if you don't know who to ask a question to, you can email your TC, they'll know who to ask.
And that was the other thing. That was the thing I was just about to say after listening to you talk. Just because maybe you've never had a listing, right? Maybe you're going to your first listing appointment and doing it. You're like, I don't have any data to give them on previous listings. Utilize the marketplace, utilize the other things that you have to your disposal. I work at a marketplace where we closed over 700 units, listing units last year alone. You know what I mean? Or whatever those numbers might be. You're not lying to them. You're not telling them that you closed 700 units, but you work at a place that you have all of this support from and all of these people, these amazing people. Title, you know, even has transaction coordinator to help answer questions regarding the deal and stuff. Utilize that, use that as leverage if you need to when you're first starting. I mean, that's what I did when I first started as a buyer's agent and I was on a team. The first solo buyer strategy session I ever went on, the person asked me, well, how many people have you helped buy a home? That was like the first question I was ever asked. And thank goodness I did some script practice with my coach right before I went on it. And that's exactly what we were talking about, things that might come up. And he said, utilize your team. You know what I mean? Let them know. Our team has helped over 100 families find a home last year. You know what I mean? We're looking to help 150 this year, and I would love to make you one of them. Boom. I'm not lying to them, but that's what we did, right? Do they need to know I wasn't a part of any of that 100 and that this would be my first buyer? No, but I have a full team that this is what they do. If I have a question, I can answer it. You know what I mean? And so do the same thing when you're on listing appointments, right? Utilize the support that's around you. That's right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I'm all finished. If you guys have any questions, email me, call me, let me know. Hopefully it was somewhat informative. It was kind of done last minute. So was it?
Don't forget to send Kelly that link. 'Cause
I will.
want that
I want it.
paper.
No, I'm gonna give, Kelly has all the documents. I'm gonna
Oh, sure.
ask her, yeah, I gave them to her so she could put them in this slide for me. I
Okay.
emailed them to her, so I'll just let her know to create a doc, a folder or something for you guys and let you know where they're at.
There was one that was missing that you were trying to find though. that
I
you
was.
had.
Yeah, so it was, so in this, it was just the page in this thing here. We have there's supposed to be, after this page here where I was showing you, it shows you our stats. The next page we have is a like editable thing, and that's where I put that MLS graph that shows the average days on the market for the properties I'm. And then I also cut and paste the Zillow, what the Zestimate is. I put the RPR amounts in here, and it says at the top what people think your house is worth, right? So it shows them all of the data, and then down here at the very bottom, I leave it blank, but I was telling you we have 3 tier. We normally give them 3 options of how we would list their house, kind of low end, right, in what we think is the sweet spot, or swinging for the fences. You know what I mean? These are where we would want to list your home, and we'll tell you what the pros and cons to each one are. I leave those blank and I handwrite those in when I'm with them, so it makes it kind of interactive with me and also makes the person kind of get close to me when I'm talking with them. Oh, let me take a look at that folder. So if we were to list on the low side, they're kind of peering over the shoulder, just, it definitely helps out. It's making that connection with them too. But that was the sheet that wasn't on here, but the one I'll make sure is on there will have that, so you guys can see that too. Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day.
Thank you very
so
much.
No problem.
Ready?
You're welcome.